welcome back. So I have a tag video for you today. It is the end of year book tag as revised by Destiny Sidwell, and I saw this on Andrew's channel. You could be reading more, and it's really an open mic sort of tag. It's for everybody, and it is talking about the books that we have read over the past year and some of our goals going into the next year. So this is a long one. There are 22 questions. I'm going to try to keep this short. I usually make my videos in the afternoon, the evening, when I am better awake and everything. But it's early in the morning now, and I was going to make this early because I have to edit it and hopefully post it. And I have some things I have to do today. And it is the last day of the year, if I remember that right. I forgot to put on my watch, so that's nice. Anyway, here we go. Number 1, most disappointing book of the year. So this might be controversial right out of the gate. But there's a good reason for it, and it was The Ritual by Adam Neville. And the first half of the book, it's split into 2 parts. The first half of the book, really, really good, really atmospheric, really going somewhere interesting. And the second half of the book, Adam Neville chose to do something really odd, and all the tension, all the atmosphere and the pace of the book just plummeted and kind of came to a standstill. And I did a review of this book, which, you know, I expected more people would watch that one, but maybe not, because I put, spoilers in the title. But I was really, really looking forward to it. I wanted to read it for years. I saw the movie like 10 years ago, whenever it came out. It's been maybe not 10 years, but seven years, something like that. And I have to say the movie was better. I hate to say that, but it's for me, that was the truth. I love the first half of this book, and the second half, I did not understand what Adam Neville was. I understood what he was trying to do. I don't understand why he tacked it on to the end of The Ritual. I think it should have been split into 2 separate books, exploring 2 different things. So, question 2, Underdog Book of the Year. I went with Flatliners by Lenore Fleischer. And so Flatliners was a movie with Julia Roberts, Kiefer Sutherland. Who else was in that? Oliver Platt and one of the Baldwin brothers. And this was the novelization of that movie. And I liked the movie, and I really liked the book. And it was a book that I really, really didn't expect to be as good as it was. I thought it was really good. Your results may vary, but I really enjoyed it. And number 3, a book that was overhyped. So I don't have an answer for this one. I wrote down the Valachi Papers by Peter Maas, but then I remembered that I really did enjoy that book. And so the Valachi Papers was these interviews that Peter Maas did with Joe Valachi, who was in the Mafia. But looking back on it, that was a better book. It's just that I've heard about it a lot, and maybe I expected it to be different from what it was, but it was actually good for what it was. So I don't really actually have an answer for that, because I can't say that I've really read any super popular books this year, maybe a couple. My other answer would have been Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. I kind of felt like it was I just felt like it was not what I expected, but I don't know if that counts as being overhyped. And I am going to talk about some books that I haven't yet talked about in other videos. I still have the stack. I'm still working on the videos, and I'm going to get them out. Just the end of the year, you've got all these other things going on, all these other videos to do, the best of, the worst of. I don't know if I'm going to do those, but I do have ideas. Question 4, favorite book couple of the year. So mine isn't really a couple, and I don't really read books about like romances or anything, and I tend to forget characters rather fast, to be honest. Um, Mostly, they have to really stand out to me. But I went with the uh, Alien versus Predator Prey by Steve Perry and Stephanie Perry. And they're not really a couple, but there's a lady named Machiko, and she has been sent to a planet to oversee, like, they're raising these giant alien cows. And so the this ship of predators comes down, and they drop off these xenomorph eggs, and the eggs get into these cows, and the predators don't know that the humans are even on the planet. And there's this whole story about, like, one of the predators is very rebellious, and he causes these problems, and the aliens breed too much, and there are way too many of them, and they overrun this little area. And Machiko and one of the predators have to team up to take on both these other xenomorphs and these rebellious predators. And she winds up. He really respects her. He's really surprised because she's, compared to him, she's very small, and he just didn't expect it. And it was a really interesting book. I really enjoyed that. And she well, I won't give away the ending, but it was really good. Question 5. Favorite main characters of the year. So this is a book I haven't talked about yet. It's I'm going to soon, but I think my favorite character of the year was Chief Bromden from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He's a really interesting character. For the first little bit of the book, you wonder why. So he's in a mental institution, he's in an asylum, and we are seeing the book from his point of view, and he's the narrator of the book, and he has chosen to be silent for 15 years. And we think that he is very, other than this choice of his not to speak, we think that he's a very normal character. But it gradually comes out that he is delusional and perhaps schizophrenic. And I just thought, we go through this character's backstory and through talking about his father and his experience in the war, his experience in this asylum, his experience with Randall P. McMurphy, and I just really enjoyed that character, Chief Bromden. Number 6, a book that surprised you. So I went with Haunted Nights by Ellen Datlow and Lisa Morton. It is a short story collection, anthology, I guess, of stories all about Halloween, and I was really not expecting very much, and there were some really good stories in that collection, and they were also about different Halloween type traditions around the world. It was really good. I really, really liked it, and I really was not expecting much at all from that book. Number 7, new favorite author you discovered in 2025. So I went with Henry Beston, who wrote The Outermost House, about his time living in a small shack on the outermost beach of Cape Cod in the 20s. I think it was the 20s. It was very good, very, very wonderful. He was a great writer, very, very skilled at writing, and it is just a wonderful book. It is still the most beautiful book I read all year. So that title for that video I made still holds true. Question 8, happiest read of the year. So I went with Meg by Steve Alton, and I just blazed through that thing. I didn't expect to enjoy it nearly as much as I did. I had a fantastic time reading that book, and it was just one of those books where, so I read the revised edition, and I don't know, it just hooked me from the very beginning. He treats this giant shark like a real animal. He doesn't anthropomorphize it, and even the conflicts going on between the characters, like their romantic troubles, and like the main character's wife has been cheating on him with his best friend who is a multimillionaire, and they all go to hunt this shark, and his wife works for this news uh, station. She's a like an anchor on a news channel, and she sees the giant shark as her ticket to like the big time. And I just I just really enjoyed that, and there's some really satisfying moments in that book where people get what they have coming to them. Uh, okay, number 9, most frustrating book you read in 2025. So some people might remember this, but I read this like quaint, cozy murder mystery called A Pint of Murder by Alyssa Craig. And it was the most frustrating book that I read all year, hands down, because it was, Alyssa Craig was trying to make us understand that this is a small town and everybody is interconnected and everybody knows everybody's business. But the tedium of describing all these relationships between these different people who live in this small Canadian town, it was like, well, I need to ask my friend's sister's cousin's aunt's best friend's gardener, and this happened over and over and over, and it was just so awful. I mean, I see what she was trying to do, but she just pushed it to the point where it became frustrating and really marred what was an otherwise good book. Okay, so the best adaptation of the year. So I didn't watch, I don't watch very many movies anymore. And I'm sure that I watched an adaptation for sure, but I don't think I read a book and watched the movie this year. I wanted to read, or I wanted to watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I've had that for years, and I watched it one time like 10, maybe 12 years ago, and I just really can't bring myself to watch it again. It's a rather devastating movie, if you know the ending and everything. So I went with 6 Days of the Condor, which was made into a movie called 3 Days of the Condor. And it stars Robert Redford, Faye Dunaway. Oh, good Lord. There's a really famous actor who plays Jobert, the hitman. Um, it's a really good movie. I have to say that I think it was better than the book in a lot of ways because it expands upon some of the characters and it smooths out some of the issues in the book. For instance, it deletes 3 days, and I will talk more about this book in an upcoming video. So I just think if you've never seen 3 Days of the Condor, it's about 2 hours long, but it's worth it. It's a really good movie. It's about a man who works for the CIA, but all he does is read books. He reads mysteries, thrillers, action novels, spy novels, all day, every day, and he writes reports on them so that the CIA can like maybe take skills out of these books and see if they work in the real world, and also to see trends in these books. And he goes out for sandwiches, and when he comes back, this hit squad has gone through the whole building, and he has to go on the run. And the book is about the same thing, but it's quite different in the movie. And I think it was just a smoother, better handled story in the movie. Not that the book is bad. The book is quite good. Number 11, the longest book you read this year. That would be Winston Churchill's The Gathering Storm at 752 pages. And the shortest, number 12, the shortest book you read this year, it was Art Spiegelman's In the Shadow of No Towers, which I was a little bit disappointed by just because it was so different from what I expected. And I found Art Spiegelman to be a little bit irritating. I mean, it was a man who was trying to work out his trauma from this event, but it just was not what I was expecting at all. And it was more it's a comic. It's a big comic on a big it's a really big book, and you fold it open and it's a comic from the it's read from the side, so like the width, and it was really about his feelings about politics and smoking bans and things going on in the wake of 9/11. And okay, I just didn't care for it. Not that it was bad. It was just so much different from what I expected. Uh, Number 13, favorite covers of the year. So I have 3 here. And I'm sure there were more, but these are the ones that I had handy and the ones that I remember. So this is another book I haven't talked about yet. It is Raiders of the Deep by Lowell Thomas. I was really surprised to find this. I bought it for $1.59. This is from I think this is published in 1928. I think this one is from 1931 or 2. But I just really like that cover. It is a U-boat and a ship here. I'm not sure how well you can see it. All I see is a glare. But I just really like that. And we also have 6 Days of the Condor, which I think this might be my favorite cover of the year, with the guy with the pistol and the bullet holes in the glass, and also the blue. It's blue all around. They don't do this anymore. I don't know why. I love it. And just a really simple back, but I really like that cover. And also Athabasca by Alistair MacLean. I think this is just a great cover for a not so great book, and you just have the it's I don't know, I just really like that. And I even like the spine. So hopefully I won't have lost my place here. Number 14, a book you haven't stopped thinking about. So I went with James Michener's Kent State, and there are different reasons for why I haven't stopped thinking about this. Part of it is just that the Kent State incident, the tragedy, this shooting on the college campus by the National Guard, how these different groups came together in this incident, what was going on at the time politically on the campus in the town of Kent. Just really intriguing. The way that James Michener went about doing this was really intriguing. And the video I made for Kent State was probably the most controversial video I have made so far. And I got some kind of rude and pedantic comments, and some which accused me of, well, they twisted my words, first of all, and then they accused me of something where what I say in the video directly contradicts what they said in the comment. So I don't know if they just got to a point and were like, screw you, pal, I'm gonna keyboard warrior. But also it was kind of odd in that I was just recounting what James Michener said, really, and they were, I don't know, I'm not James Michener, okay? I was just giving you his opinions. So anyway, that was kind of frustrating. Where were we here? Number 15, the cringiest book you read this year. So I read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Has some pretty cringy stuff in it. Some cringy, like, racial stuff, some cringy sexist stuff, and Randall P. McMurphy is kind of, I don't want to give too much away, but he's there in this asylum because he was in a prison for he was convicted of, like, statutory rape, and that whole book is kind of cringy. And also Long Arm and the Snake Dancers. There are some scenes in that book which are just like pornographic, and it was pretty cringy because it was cringy in a hilarious way. And I said before, this is where you learn why Long Arm is called Long Arm. They are trashy westerns. They're good westerns, but they have like these sex scenes thrown in that are really hilarious and just not really necessary. I don't think they would have even been necessary to sell the Long Arm books. I think the Long Arm series would have been just fine without them, to be honest. Number 16, an unpopular book you loved. So I'm basing this off of reviews I read and video comments on other people's videos about this book, because most of them were like high school students who were really mad that they were assigned this book, and they thought it was boring, and they were mad at their teachers and stuff, but it is The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. I thought it was great. I really loved it, but apparently high school students throughout America can't stand it and hate it and just don't like reading. Or they certainly didn't like reading The Red Badge of Courage. Number 17. What was the highest and lowest rated books you read this year on Goodreads? Do you agree? So the highest rated book was Lincoln on the Verge by Ted Widmer, which is an account of Abraham Lincoln's journey right after he was he was going to take office. He left Springfield, Illinois. He took a train across the country to Washington, D.C., and this is all about his trip from point A to point B and the things that happened in between, the people he met, the people who saw him, their accounts of him, the danger that he was in, the Pinkerton agent who was with him, the trouble in Baltimore. It was a really good book. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. And I think part of it, I was kind of biased against it because of the cover. It didn't have a very impressive cover. And it was really, really good. And the lowest rated book I read was L. Neil Smith's Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Shrew, with a 2.99 rating. Was it that bad? No. So this is a book I read during the summer. I was kind of having some trouble during the summer talking about books on camera, so this is one that I just read and kept to myself. Lando Calrissian is probably my favorite Star Wars character. And I enjoyed the book. I think the author leaned a little bit too heavily into like the Lando persona, like the Billy D. Williams portrayal, and that's okay, but the jokes and things get a little bit old, and the story is a little bit strange, but I don't think it was super bad. I think maybe it's really bad if you are really into Star Wars and you read it and you go, this doesn't work. But I didn't think it was that bad. So number 18, favorite quotes of the year. So all of my favorite quotes of the year were like really, really long, like mini paragraphs, several pages long, as far as I remember. So I'm not going to sit here and recount, 40 pages of quotes for you. I'm sorry, but I just don't have the time. 19, book with the most unique concept. So this is another book that I read during the summer, during my little rough patch. And it was The Hidden Dimension by Edward T. Hall. It was a book so Edward T. Hall was not exactly sure what he was, but he was a professional in psychology or sociology or a mixture of the two, maybe psychiatry. It's been a little while. This is from the early 60s, and the entire book is talking about private space and how different cultures see space, private space. So how an American might feel about having a door on their office or not having a door, how a German might feel about an open door, how space is in how private space, personal space is in Japan, for instance. It was a really interesting concept, and it is interesting how different cultures see personal space and the different ranges between personal space and public space, and how he uses JFK as an example, how the moment that he was nominated to be president, how these people who had been all around him suddenly made space, and they had to be coaxed over because he had gone from being just a man to being potentially the next president. And just little examples like that. It was a little bit disconcerting in that they were doing quite a bit of studies with rats, and that was kind of unpleasant because they overcrowded rats, and the results were really disturbing. But it is, from I think from 62, somewhere in there. But I didn't enjoy that aspect of it at all. Number 20, book you read that you would reread. So I went with Raiders of the Deep. And since this was published in 1928, I'm pretty sure that this is public domain. And while I was reading this, I was thinking that this would make a really, really great read aloud. So what it is that Lowell Thomas, he was a journalist, and he was a correspondent during World War I, and he became fascinated by U-boats and U-boat captains. So in the 20s, he went to Germany, and he talked with all these U-boat captains, and this is an oral recounting of their experiences during the war, and it was really, really interesting, really good. And I'm thinking about maybe doing a read aloud of this. I think it is in public domain. If you know if this is in public domain, I would love to hear it. If you know how I can figure out if this is in public domain, I would love to hear it. I think that it is, but I looked and looked, and I can't find it anywhere. Because the public domain laws are a little bit confusing as far as, so Lowell Thomas lived into the 70s, so I'm not sure if this is actually on public domain. I think it is. Please let me know. Okay, dropping things. Number 21, reading goal reflection and 2026 reading goal. So my goal this year was to read Valim Shalamov's Kolima Tales, which I never did. It was to read more biographies, which I think I read 2 or 3. I know I read one about Elizabeth II. It was really good. And I was going to read more classics in general. I don't know how many classics I read this year. I know I read The Voyage of Argo. I guess you could throw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Death of a Salesman in there. But I really didn't read very many classics this year at all. I didn't read many biographies. I didn't make it to Kolima Tales. Goals just don't really work for me. My 2026 reading goals there are several short story collections I want to reread. There are several novels I want to reread. And there are several nonfiction books that I want to reread. That's really my only goal right now. Every year I set a goal that I want to read 52 books a year. I just want to read one book a week. And I always knock that out of the park. So those are my only goals right now. Uh-oh. I think I just answered the 22nd question also. After 2025, what are you prioritizing in 2026 reading-wise? Just reading. You know, my only real goal is to read more every year, and not more in the sense of more pages or more books, but to pare down the time that I waste on like doom scrolling and TV watching, and just to read more, just to make reading a larger part of my day than it is. And I think that is probably also one of the best ways you can read more, is just to look at the things that you are doing which are not really necessary, which are just wasting time, and just spend that time reading instead. Okay, so that is the end of year book tag, and this is 33 minutes now. I'm going to try to go edit this and post it, and hopefully I will get this in by the end of the year, which is fast approaching, because I think it is about, not sure what time it is. I left my watch in there. I don't want to turn around. Okay, so anyway, I want to thank everyone who is involved with this tag, and I will see you next time.